Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. The cold open, because there's no need for an intro. There's no need for anything. It's our first emergency podcast. The bat signal went out. Jeremy, you grabbed Shane. Y'all ran to Tudor's, grabbed the biscuits, and here we are to talk about the hiring, the firings happening in the SunBelt Conference. Bryant Vincent staying at ULM after the close call leaving for Conference USA's Jacksonville State. And Bob Marlin is no longer leading the Cajuns. Welcome in, guys, for the quick emergency.
Yeah, I had to wake Shane out of the drunk tank down in Hattiesburg or Harrisonburg.
It's the same place this day and age.
I was trying to create this impression that Shane is like this drunken reporter, but it didn't work out. I failed on the landing on that. So just forget it now.
I'd probably more likely land in the drunk tank if I was in Hattiesburg than Harrisonburg. I'll have a few more beers on the road than I typically do at home. So
nice.
I was talking with somebody the other day that was in the medical profession. They were talking about a client that they had that measured distances, not in how many miles or minutes it takes to get there, but yeah, that's about 3.5 beers.
Yeah, that used to be a big thing in Montana. I think that was like the last state that said, yeah, you're going to get in trouble if you drink and drive. And it just threw the citizens in a panic. How am I going to get home without my beer in the seat next to me? But yeah, it seems kind of weird in this day and age.
What's not weird? We get to see one of the shortest coaches in the SunBelt Conference return to the sidelines of Malone Stadium. Bryant Vincent staying. I know from the inside that it's huge that he is going to remain the leader of the Warhawks to capitalize on the momentum from last year's 5-7, somewhat disappointing, but overachieving year. The outside looking in, what do y'all see seeing that Vincent is returning to Monroe?
Yeah, I think Vincent brings a sort of mentality and a drive that we haven't seen at ULM in a long time. And for him just to be wanted by other programs, I mean, usually with ULM, it's sort of a hire and then the coaches sort of disappear into the ether. Now you got a guy at the helm that is sort of a hot commodity right now. And if that should excite fans. It's sort of a near-death experience. You almost lost your coach. Now you got him back, and you should feel more alive than ever.
yeah, and I think it's just, this signals that ULM's kind of in a new era where, when the Sun Belt expanded a couple of years ago, it was very notable that ULM wasn't spending the same money that other programs were. They were struggling kind of across the board, and they've got, new AD, new coaches in a lot of sports. And, this just isn't a move I don't think they could have pulled off, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's huge, like for the school, and it's big for the conference too, because, you're talking about the team that's been in the cellar for a while. Now proves they can compete both on and off the field.
Yeah, and Shane, I think what it says to the fan base too is that I think kind of building on what you just said is that it shows the fan base that the administration, the program is willing to, bend over a little bit, figure things out and do something for the program rather than simply, become an assembly line like it has been for a long time. Tibbs, this might signal a new age for ULM. finally getting serious about competing in the Sun Belt.
In the words of Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. It is definitely a crazy day and age that we have this. We have the players coming in. Still need to fill some of the coaching vacancies that are on staff, but now with him coming back, that increases the money pool. So maybe you get a little bit bigger, better, faster, stronger assistants to continue to build on that momentum. And so now I really feel more excited about headed into spring, that you're not going to see this massive roster turnover like you would have seen in the portal of incoming and outgoing guys. Had Vincent gone to Jacksonville State, you're going to see a lot of those same familiar names. Obviously, no General Booty, no Ahmad Hardy, who is now in the SEC at Missouri. But we will see the likes of Billy Pullen back, as well as Oz Smith and everyone else that is deciding to stick around and leave their legacy.
Yeah, and what is with Missouri, Tibbs, that they keep picking on the Sun Belt's best running backs?
They got Drinkwitz, the former App State guy.
He knows where the talent is.
Yeah, and so I think he has his ear to the ground, listening to the thundering herd and also the Nears and looking up at the Warhawks and plucking the best.
Yeah. Well, like I said, G5, we lose all of our stars. The Power 4, they lose all their malcontents. But sorry to see Ahmad Hardy go. But I feel like if anybody can bring another Ahmad Hardy to ULM, it would be Coach Vincent, right?
I think there's some in the wings. I think that we're going to see another big time commitment coming up here in the spring at the running back position that will make Shane possibly turn in his JMU card for the Warhawks.
Wow.
That's big news, man. You're breaking news. Yeah, you're breaking news left and right, Tibbs. What are we going to do?
It's the emergency podcast. Well, I mean, I thought that's what we were doing. We were breaking news.
All right. Okay. All right. What else you got?
We got to remember the portal works both ways. That's the motto now, and it's not just the malcontents either, Jeremy. I mean, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's the FCS stars moving up. Sometimes it's the guys who just didn't get to play. Sometimes it can be anything.
The guys who don't get to play are malcontents.
Not necessarily.
Georgia State was excited about this new guy that was coming in from some program, and I looked at, he had 12 carries last year. That's a malcontent. That's a guy who did not fit in on the team.
And keep in mind for everybody, but I think maybe ULM, Southern Miss in particular, like this JUCO ruling, like they can go out and get some guys that now have an extra year or two of eligibility. Like, and I think JUCO is a good route for ULM. And bringing Vincent back, the key is just going to be to build some depth that they didn't have this year. They obviously had talent in their starting 11, 22. They're too deep, but the depth waned a little bit as the season went on. You get some of those guys in, like that's just huge for Vincent coming back to be able to have the opportunity to build off what he did so quickly in year one.
Yeah, I think what's the strength of Vincent is he sort of understands how things work now in the group of five and in college football in general. And when he started doing that JUCO route, I think a lot of people raised their eyebrows, not like, wow, how surprising. It was more like, wow, what a great idea. And instant success. You're right. They didn't have that depth, Shane. They didn't have enough depth to get through the season. But my God, 5 wins for a team that at best was supposed to get 2. That's a pretty good record for Vincent and a huge win for ULM to keep him.
And the Red Pandas are going down next year with his return.
No, it's not happening. I'm sorry.
Let's also just talk and congratulate John Hartwell, because I mean we've talked before about how he's made some good hires there. Kind of doing more with less in some ways. That was big for them to be able to get him to come back to the area, and from covering an AD search fairly recently at JMU, you kind of like start to pick up on a lot of the bigger things guys do in that job, or gals, and that's not just a men's job. Sorry about that. But, a lot of the bigger things people do aren't the kind of things that you type up and put in the bio on the on the website. You know, he's not going to type up a bunch of like conference championships and stuff right now, but to be able to like maneuver and get the donors where they need to be, get the money in place, make this happen so fast, because it really sounded like Vincent was close to gone, and he came up and stepped up big in the final hours. And that's the kind of thing that not necessarily on your resume or your bio as an AD, but that's the key to the job, really, is to be able to make things happen and quickly.
Yeah, retention is just as important. Yeah, Tibbs, do you have some background on that?
I just picture that Vincent had not one foot out the door. He had both feet. Hartwell grabbed him by the head, put him in a headlock, and made him stay. It is really how I kind of picture it going down in my head, as Shane said. But that wasn't the only move. The Cajuns, the malcontents, as you speak about, the fans were not happy that the Cajuns were on the struggle bus in the early part of the season. Bob Marlin axed, ironically, after getting to 1-0 in Sunbelt Conference play, beating a pretty good App State team.
That was the wildest part of the whole thing. I think we all knew that maybe he was on some thin ice. Somebody pointed out, maybe it was you, Tibbs, or maybe it was somebody in my own circles. He's been in the league for a long time. You said this. Sometimes change is better for the sake of change, but he's also sort of a grousey guy. I get the feeling he's not the best with boosters, and he certainly isn't good with losing. I mean, we saw how cranky he was after that string of losses. I gotta think this is a good move. I think when a coach is in a place like Louisiana for that long, there's a sort of treading of water, even if it's sort of imagined, not for real. And I think this will give the program a boost. Don't you think, Shane? Shane, just anytime that you want to bolster my analysis with professional analysis, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time to be anywhere in college sports these days. Especially at the mid-major G5 level, it's sort of like, if you haven't done enough to move up, maybe something's wrong to a degree in certain cases. You kind of almost got to unpack this. So I've talked to some people in Lafayette here over the last day or so, and it kind of sounds like it's weird that it happens after a win, but from the sound of it, it's almost kind of like they were like, we're not going to get trapped again by him winning when everybody wants him gone. Because I mean, you can go back to the 22-23 season, and they sort of underperformed in the regular season. Like they were pretty big favorites to win the conference. They had Jordan Brown, Greg Williams, two guys that you're kind of lucky to get those guys to transfer in because they had connections to UL and Lafayette. And so you underperform a little bit with those guys in the regular season. And I think they were ready to get rid of him then. And then they win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament and end up kind of being stuck with them for a little bit longer is the impression that I'm getting from people around there. So I'm kind of wondering if, they beat App State, but they weren't like, well, we're not going to let that dictate what we're doing anymore. Like,
that's kind of Shane, that's kind of a baller move, man. It's kind of like Louisiana said, hey, congratulations for the win, coach. You're out. Because they could have easily made the same decision after that debacle against Lamar. That would have been the traditional time to fire a guy, right? When you lose by, 40 points to Lamar, that would seem like that would have been the right time. Instead, I kind of like this. The administration made a statement. Hey, winning one game isn't going to be enough for Cajun fans. You're out, buddy.
Yeah. And maybe the decision was made a little bit earlier, and they just, crossing the I's and dotting the T's and everything, like didn't get it done until after a win. So it makes it look a little strange. But yeah, I mean, it's rough. I mean, because that seems like a good job, and they're just kind of treading water there for a long time, it seems like.
So, Tibbs, do you think Marley has a future outside of this firing?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe he drops down to the high school just to get a couple more years in the retirement system for Louisiana if he's in the system. But no, I don't see him taking the reins of a college program, especially at the D1 level.
So yeah, so this might be the end for Morley. I'm surely he's compensated well enough that he doesn't have to like scrounge for dollars. But
He ain't starving.
no, okay, he'll be all right. So are there any rumblings anywhere else, Tibbs?
I don't know. I know that Monroe native Derek Zimmerman will take over as interim coach for the Cajuns, a guy that helped lead Mississippi State to a SEC championship in his time, was a draft pick by Golden State back in his playing days. I think it'll be an interesting move to see if this is maybe an audition for him to take over as his first head coaching job. He's been a longtime assistant at different stops, and we might be looking at the new leader of the Cajuns.
All right. I got some basketball news to share. Arkansas State picked up a big 4-star recruit, Tristan Beckford, out of Canada, a Canuck. That makes Arkansas State, at this time, the 37th ranked program in recruiting, according to 24/7, which is really cool. It is the highest non-power ranked team. And you just got to give it up to Coach Hodges, the guy, Hodgson. He knows how to recruit. Hopefully,
does he know he committed to Arkansas State and not Arkansas?
I think so. But who knows? The joke around amongst the fan base is that, yeah, those guys will look pretty good playing for Purdue or SMU or wherever Coach Hodgson goes next year. So we're all hoping that those great players that he recruited end up playing for Arkansas State next season.
You mentioned the grumblings. You know, there's always grumblings on the Bayou whether or not Richard will survive the season with the struggles through the non-conference. Conference play starts on Saturday, though, so we'll have to see kind of how they respond hosting another struggling team in Old Dominion under first-year head coach Mike Jones. Yeah. Is this the end also for the other Sunbelt Louisiana team in their head coaching tenure?
Well, Shane, I think you'll agree that the baller move would be for ULM to win this game and then Richard getting fired.
Yeah, possibly. Well, let's put it out there. We're recording our emergency episode on Friday morning. So if any other news breaks throughout the day of the weekend, this is the timing of it. Because I mean, at this point, UL might have kind of opened the door for other teams to make a move. It's kind of the way it goes sometimes. Is like, oh, mid-season is the way to do it now. Let's do it. And let's be honest. There are some programs that are really struggling in the Sun Belt right now. Yeah. I don't think ODU is going to make a move, despite their not living up to kind of what that program's capable of. First year with an alum as coach, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see something else happen here in the coming days, just because. You got to make a move, and the money. It's a money sport, and at some point the Sun Belt's got to start making some money off basketball, getting more teams into the tournament, into the postseason, getting better TV deals, everything, and there's some pressure to be better at men's basketball right now, and it's kind of a down year. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see more stuff happen.
I'm going on record now, though.
Yeah.
If Brent Jones fires Scott Cross, I'm coming after him.
Scott Cross should be able to dictate his own terms. I am going to stir the pot a little bit, Tibbs. I'm going to stir the pot. Are you ready?
No, not you.
I don't stir the pot. That's Shane. He causes the problems. Did Dustin Kearns wait a little too long to make a move somewhere outside of Appalachian State? Because suddenly Appalachian State is not going to be in the spotlight anymore. They're just not a good team this year. I know they're probably going to be okay in the Sun Belt. Nobody's really good in the Sun Belt right now. Dustin Kearns was the talk of the town for the last couple of years. Did he wait too long?
Here's the key question. Did he want to go anywhere else? Or is he perfectly content where he's at?
And be happy out there in Boone. I don't know.
I think that he's open to listening to the opportunities, but I don't think he's expressed interest in, I hate Boone, I got to get out of this place. I feel like if the right opportunity came along, he would have jumped on it, but he is definitely content where he's at. He's going to ride the wave. He'll have the Nears back up and going, if nothing else, because the altitude and us Southern guys cannot breathe when we go there. So he's guaranteed several wins a year. But yeah, I don't see the panic button being hit yet in App State.
I just look at Marley, a guy who maybe stayed too long. If he had aspirations for, going somewhere else and getting a bigger payday, and the Sun Belt is just that way. You got to strike while the iron is hot, because the landscape shifts so quickly in the Sun Belt. Dustin Kerns is just such a talented guy, such a great coach, such a good recruiter. I know he'll have Appalachian State back, but I would hate for him to fade in obscurity if something happens with the Appalachian State program that just can't get back.
Yeah, I'm kind of where Tibbs is too. Like, I'm sure he's listening to offers, but not necessarily jumping at just any high major job that comes along. It's not going to jump at it necessarily. And I don't know. I think he's in a position where they didn't have the best off season, with losing some guys in the portal and maybe not bringing in as many as at least their fan base would have liked to have seen. But, I think what we've seen from him is, there may be some down years, but they're always going to get back to being competitive for a championship within a couple of years. So, I don't know if he's necessarily missed his opportunity either. And, I completely understand why somebody might just be completely content to be at Boone, where he's done well enough that I don't think he's really under any pressure, even if it's a little bit of a down year this year.
Well, he's a demigod in Boone. I mean, just watch the way the student section reacts when he comes by. I mean, I don't think one losing season he's going to lose that relationship with the school. So maybe all right. Maybe he just likes being in Boone and building that program and doing well there. You guys looking forward to the opening of the Sun Belt basketball season? I kind of looked at some of those games on, when was it? Monday night? Was it Tuesday or Monday night? When was the game against Houston Christian, Tibbs?
I don't know. I don't look at the painful memories. I mean, we can't all be red ninja pandas there, Jeremy.
I also checked out that James Madison Wake Forest game, and man, James Madison looked lights out that first half. I was like, man, they're gonna be really dangerous. Turned it off for the Georgia State Auburn game, which was kind of a mess. Came back and suddenly the Dukes were down 20. Shane, what happened?
There was a big run early in the second half for Wake. Game got really physical, and that didn't really play well for JMU. Especially Elijah Hutchins' Everett went out briefly, but he did go out a little bit. That kind of coincided with Wake Forest's run after he seemed to hurt his knee a little bit. Went back in, but they never really got it quite back together. Like, they played them pretty evenly outside of the quick run to start the second half. But I think we've seen that JMU at their best can beat some good teams, but they're not playing at their best very consistently right now.
Yeah, do you think that's a matter of just a bunch of new guys trying to get it together?
I think so. I mean, you look at Preston Spradlin's track record, like a ton of success at Morehead State, which is not a very easy place to win. Like, I don't think there's any reason to be worried yet, but it is one of those years where it's all kind of like, non-conference is going to be a little bit of experimenting, and like hopefully you get it together in time to make a run for a Sun Belt championship is, I think, the plan at JMU this year. No 32-4 record like to be expected this time around.
That's a good plan. So also I checked out Southern Miss versus Lamar. I don't know what Lamar has against the Sun Belt, but once again, another win for Lamar, this time in Hattiesburg. So Sun Belt not doing the very best, especially in this out of conference.
That's all we have for our emergency podcast. Guys, it's Christmas coming up. What's the one thing that Santa needs to bring the Sun Belt this upcoming year, Shane?
Well, if we're going to make some coaching changes, I think, let's get some top-notch coaches in to fill the voids and, just bring the quality of the league up in basketball. Because I think that would be huge to even just start to get into the conversation of having a 2-bid league would make a big difference when you look at what the Sun Belt is kind of across the board in all other sports. You get basketball up there would really bolster everything.
Jeremy, what say you?
I tell you what Santa doesn't need to bring, although he could elect to keep on bringing, is big wins through A-State, Sunbelt women's basketball. Another big win last night. Troy beat Arkansas. I think that's like 6 or 7 power wins the Sunbelt has gained. I don't know if Sunbelt women this year are going to be, a force overall in women's basketball. But those are high-profile wins, and that's really good for the league. It'd be great if the Sun Belt could grow women's basketball. I think that all the material is there, the resources, the interest. It just has to grow. It has to be allowed to grow, and I hope it continues on that path.
I think the big thing that Santa needs to bring us, we've had some teams make it to the regionals, obviously, in baseball. A handful have made it to the super regionals. We need a trip to Omaha this upcoming year. It doesn't matter who it is. We'll get behind them. We'll support them. Hell, we might even get Shane to jump on a 10-speed and head to Omaha to check out those games. But we need a trip to Omaha to support the Sun Belt Conference.
Absolutely. I think those are great. That's a great list for Santa Claus.
So until then, until more news breaks and we have to come up with another emergency podcast, we'll take off for Christmas, but we will definitely hit it up in the new year, guys.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.